Okay, we are now live online to our Zoom audience. Welcome, people on Zoom, to the annual Pride reading at Planet Earth Poetry. A thing I forgot to say earlier in my kerfluffle of not knowing where my page was is that you can also donate online. Just go to the website, and that's a great way you can get a receipt. It's a great way to support the continued existence of this, the longest running in Canada reading series. Yeah, right? Fantastic. Okay, so our first reader tonight is Kath Healing. Kath is a queer, trans, and disabled poet based right here in Victoria. Their work appears in many stellar journals, such as the Malahat Review, PRISM, the Fiddlehead, Grain, Contemporary Verse 2, Plenitude, Augur, and Pulp Literature. And they won the 2025 Victoria Writers Society Poetry Contest. Yeah, fantastic. So welcome, Kath Healing.
Thank you so much, Melanie, and thank you everyone to PEP for having me and inviting me. I'm really, really honoured to be here, and I've had such a warm embrace into the poetry community and really grateful for that. Okay. Put it down a bit. Is that better? Okay, great. The first poem is called Purple Virgins. A lady does not stand on a stage and say, fuck this. A lady does not talk about uniforms like they were weapons. They wrapped us in purple and yellow, royal bruise custard disaster. Everyone called us the Purple Virgins. Northern private school, champagne fantasy, corner shop budget. All girls, males not allowed on the premises, except the groundskeeper, who didn't count because he was useful. Christian worship every morning, psalms in Latin from mouths that didn't believe in the vowels. They banned rugby because it wasn't ladylike and might damage our breasts. I liked rugby. Woodworking was replaced with sewing, electronics with home economics, the future with a casserole. The uniform was obedience, skirt at the knee, hair yanked back like femininity was basic training. Even the underwear had to be regulation white, purity policed from the inside out. The minute I realised they never checked it, I bought boxes, gender smuggled into school like contraband scripture. Off the grounds, my tie hung thin way, wrong way, slack, a refusal to pledge allegiance. Socks rolled down into working class honesty, shirt untucked, my earliest version of saying, don't constrict me into your girlhood. Self-piercings hidden across my body, one refusal at a time. Friends glimpsed metal flashing Morse code under hair. I played the good girl in perfect handwriting, a decoy. My parents sent me there because the family couldn't tell what I was, and that was the wrong answer. It turns out, if you lock a queer kid in an all-girls school with no men, no rugby, and compulsory home economics, you don't get a lady. You get a kid who can sew their own boxes and knows exactly who they're making them for. This one is called Everybody Knew. In my 20s, I lived in a house full of women and was attracted to each one. I thought this was normal. I thought everyone found it difficult to concentrate in shared kitchens. I thought the French exchange student was just very French. At school, they called me a dyke before I knew what one was. The word arrived years before my understanding did. A lass from Lancashire, I shared a room with Ali from Yorkshire. There wasn't much battle between us, more of a quiet, unexamined surrender that neither of us had the language for. We were roommates. We were also sleeping together, and I did not experience these as contradictory pieces of information. We backpacked through 3 countries with 1 guidebook, 1 budget, and 1 catastrophic inability to stop touching each other in restaurants. We broke up twice in hostels before I realised friendship does not usually require reconciliation sex. I categorised her as an intense platonic connection I had not yet found the terminology for. The terminology was gay. In a market in San Francisco, Ali asked me to call my mother to say the word, any word. She'd come out to her family and they closed the door quietly, firmly. I bought tomatoes. I held a hand under the table and introduced her as my travel companion. She looked at me the way you look at someone who has locked themselves out of a house they are standing inside. 30 years later, after 2 children, 1 marriage, and an honestly remarkable amount of evidence, I sat in my therapist's office and announced, carefully, with the gravity of a Victorian detective solving a difficult case, that I had reason to believe I might be attracted to women. My therapist had the notes. She always had the notes. At home, I gathered the children and sat them down and prepared a speech. I said, I need to tell you something. I know I'm gay. The youngest didn't look up. Yeah, Mum, you're a lesbian. I had come out to the last people on earth who needed telling. I still can't tell when someone's flirting with me. A woman could hand me her number written on a napkin, folded into a heart, and I would think, what a thoughtful napkin. I would put it carefully in my pocket and think, people are just so kind. This next one's called Already Hot. People tell me I'm brave. I'm not brave, I'm sunburned. When my hair went alopecia universalis, which sounds like a papal decree, but really just means all of it, I didn't lose a style, I lost a cover story. Hair was how I moved through rooms without anyone asking what was wrong with me. And then my body broke the agreement. I just stopped shaving and experimenting looking slightly less like what everyone assumed. And then alopecia arrived and took the whole experiment with it. And now strangers feel entitled to the diagnosis. People tell me I've got a nice shaped head. And what they mean is, thank God we can still place you. Hats became technology, not fashion, negotiation. Each one a different answer to a question I didn't ask. Baseball cap, I'm casual about this. Beanie, I'm cold, not dying. Nothing, I have decided to be everyone's problem today. Without hair, people lost their shortcut, so their eyes went looking for other markers, my chest mostly. There is a specific way someone's gaze travels from your scalp to your chest when they are running out of data. Men ask if I've lost hair everywhere. They ask it casually as if my entire body were a form they're entitled to complete. And then the internet found me. Women I've never met send me messages about hair oil and a wig supplier in Florida who can change my life. Well, my life does not require a wig supplier in Florida. Men friend request me with bios that say bald is beautiful and a message intensity that suggests rehearsal. One said, hello, gorgeous. I love bald women. My bio says queer, non-binary, they, them. He'd read none of it. He'd only read my scalp. The algorithm thinks I want wigs, empowerment seminars, scalp oil, and men named Darren who describe themselves as bald appreciators. I'm not brave. I'm just standing here with sunscreen on. Care instructions. Wash cold. Do not bleach. Tumble dry low. Exposure to prolonged stress may alter fit. Do not wring. Do not twist. Do not leave damp. Fading is expected. This is not considered a defect. If irritation develops, discontinue use. Manufacturer assumes no responsibility for changes in shape or secondary effects. Dispose of responsibly when no longer performing its intended function. Original dimensions were never confirmed. Not suitable for questions beginning with, how are you, really? Or ending with, if you need anything. Alterations not recommended after initial fitting. Alterations have been made with every fitting, and every fitting is initial. Had fun with this next one. It's called Correctly. The bread arrives whole. I tear it the way my mother insisted, correctly, as if our lives depended on it. The diagnosophist opposite me has opinions about the wine, the way some people have opinions about curtains, with a certainty that makes you check your hands. Someone is telling a story about Lisbon, and another is nodding before it lands. I could say something. I could add pizzazz. Instead, I clam up and rearrange the lemon, zugzwang of the dining room. The host refills my glass with such sniffishness, I almost admire it. The wrist, the tilt, the paw that says you are not quite. I excuse myself, stand in someone else's garden, salivagant among the roses and the bins. The funk of compost, wet lattice, a cat on the fence watching, tires on gravel, from the open window, laughter. From somewhere past the roofline, ululation, carrying across the town, a register no one at this table would use. I could go back in. I could express something. I could lay it out bone by bone, the way I've been composing it all along, but won't serve. I think some of you recognise the words in that one. Surface conditions. The Amazon driver says, "Mom," and I take the parcel. I don't correct him. Correction opens a second conversation, and then both need managing, and I came to the door for a parcel. The bus driver says, "Mom," as I tap my card. Ordinary sentences become strange acrobatics. I was just helping this over here. She was next in line, I think. You have become a grammatical emergency. Most days I don't correct anyone, not because I don't care, because I would rather spend the language on something that won't require me to comfort the person who got it wrong. The tide at Dallas Road doesn't ask what I am. The water comes in with its wood and its wood and its wood and deposits it without a system. The herons at Gonzales stand in water without explaining themselves, one foot drawn up, no second look, no revision. I could stay here, I nearly do, but the bus is at the top of the hill and the driver will say "Mom," and I'll walk into the ordinary sorting of the indoors, where every counter is a second look that doesn't look away. And my last poem is called The Crow Complained. The crow complained, stood on the feeder, looked me dead in the eye and made it clear this was a design flaw, not a bird problem. Sweatpants, cold coffee, a yard that looks like a science experiment nobody's grading. The crow didn't care. He had a grievance and I was management. I fixed the feeder. He didn't say thank you. That felt honest. The raccoons had destroyed my container pond for the third time. I'd opened the curtains and the crime scene was already there. Driftwood tossed, rocks scattered, plants uprooted like someone had thrown a party I wasn't invited to. I went out to replant it in soil this time. They had won the water. And while I was on my knees repotting what was left, one of them walked along the back fence, stopped, poked their nose over and looked at me like I was the problem. like I had personally dismantled their recreational infrastructure, and they were also considering filing a complaint. The deer came later, no sound, just arrived, stood in the yard, and I was the guest. Looked to me the way nothing human ever has, without asking what I am. And then walked to the neighbour's tree and rubbed its velvet off like it was his job. Destroyed it. No apology, no paperwork. I respected that. I reached for my phone the way you reach for proof that something good actually happened to you. And then I stopped, stood in my failed garden with my cold coffee and just stayed. No caption, no evidence, no translation. For a second, I was just standing in something that didn't need me to be anything. Thank you so much.
Wow, that was fantastic. Thank you so much, Kath. Our next reader is Scott Jackshaw. Scott is a poet, a scholar, and an editor from Edmonton, but based in Providence, Rhode Island. Their debut poetry collection is Stigmata from Talonbooks. They hold a PhD in English from Brown University and work as a managing editor of Differences, a journal of feminist cultural studies. Welcome here, Scott.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's such a privilege to be here, to hear all of your work, and thank you especially to Kath for that fabulous reading. That is a very tough act to follow. We're about to really bring down the vibe now. So this is a book about holes. Happy Pride.
Yeah.
Specifically, the holes that manifest on Christ's body in the crucifixion, and the way that those holes in the mystical Christian tradition reappear over the following, couple thousand years on mystics. And those holes figure in my project as holes in meaning, such as in traumatic memory, holes in signification, such as in non-signifying sound, noise. So we're just going to jump right into it. We're going to start with a short poem, and then a medium poem, and then maybe a long poem, because like with any hole, you have to work up to it. So this is called Benediction. I surrendered to sweat every form that was abhorrent to me. Fever stains on my mattress, the yellow in my towels, the rusted shirts I couldn't bear. I embellished their volumes, their surfaces. Who could say whether they'd become an atmosphere, an edema, a flooded street? None of this could be verified. There arose a great sewage in my body from which no leak could save me. I prayed to my melting God, dissolve this architecture of relation, and restore vulgar feeling to everywhere hygiene has sterilized it. I was such a wide city with such wide sewers. There were no chunks, no suspended things. The blood in my stool indexed a great unrest, afloat in the toilet's umber, a great fear of drowning, a great fear of touch. Following the curvature of my gut, the swerve of my tubular passage, I had turned shitless. As a bruise, a pressing sore, gone loose in the runoff, I built great revel to honor its impermanence. It resembled mountains. And this next poem is called Kenosis. I've not read this one aloud before because it's a little bit vile, but since it's the Pride reading, we can be vile together, I think. In the undulation, I induce thick bras on his cock. The state of material crisis conditions any worlding gesture. Taxonomies of fucking emerge. Deep time anality, slow exenteration, memorial touch, reflexive dislocations that accrue gut plastics, a crooked sternum, archaeoacoustics, its mouth where all difference is abolished, a cavernous ingrowth. In the shower, he thins puke down his popliteal rud. He is the blowjob's long retch, an uttering fluid. The pronoun falters. I soak him up. I spill on desertion, which is a pool where he pools on everything. On slipping, he coats my scalp in so lonely clumps. The traffic in barf reveals a terrible thing. History has no obligation to repeat itself. I'm wholly with him in the toilet. We spit up being in the active reach that is God's name. We feel it dizzy and know that all text exteriorizes the organ, all residue marks the passing world. And we're going to do one more medium-length poem called Some Theories of Atonement, because I don't think we're ready for the long one yet. In the planetary scar tissue where I follow you in our last days together, where we sacrifice the clots of lawn, where we do not become God but take on its bodies in our body, where we expose ourselves in our body, which like our sex is secret to us, in the plenary of flip-fucking, an experiment in reading, in our therapy for root rot, the scriptures where you learn to abuse in our body, where we index the earth's horrors in our body, which is consumption. Here is touching a garden of crushed violet. Here is its stain. Here is another pound of petals. Here is a name for culture. Here is its culturing tongue. I want to be wire, a tendon, a fig branch, an artery, a catalog of reticulate forms, an orgy, a fiber. I want my solidarity with you exhausted. There you fashion a catalyst for rot. There you breathe me out. There you love and break the soil. Into which we folded our failures of imagination, the catachresis, the ligament, the vine, to crawl out on the blood, help my unbelief in the body, a listening post at its borders, the shape of its unremarkable terror, holding you, accidents without substance, the copula between God and love, how it felt to hold you, the bread, the winter jacket you left here, the wine. And finally, here's a very long one that will make all those seem really, really short, called 95 Theses on the Body.
Yeah.
And it sort of takes the form of Martin Luther's work of the same length. And these are all numbered entries, but I'm not going to read the numbers because I'm a humanities person and I cannot count that high. When we said intimacy, we willed the entire life of the body to be one of confinement. This word that cannot be understood is referring to the sacrament of being that is its emulsion, but it does not mean touch. It can't touch you. A spear breaks skin, taps accumulated fluid in the membrane surrounding the lungs, and drains an atrium. The smaller the love, the greater the fear. At once, blood and water come out. The blood and water contain our most private correspondences. I collect them in glass vials and circulate them through the storm drains on your block. We neither desire nor are able to remit any bodies except those imposed by our own language. I worship ignorantly. I can't find you anywhere. Are you hungry? When did you last eat? We give ourselves thick, each with the residue of the other. When we give ourselves thick to the non-locality of fucking so that we correlate only below the waist. Blood is not life, but the living subject is such. Blood is this endless, unbroken unrest of welling forth. In former times, we imposed bodies not after, but before gender as tests of contrition. My rib, my pituitary gland, my ear. In the city's urinary tract, where I first became conscious of my continuities, the suspended bridge that resembles the spine. This remnant smear, that is to say, my desire for imprecision, intimacy that didn't reduce to authenticity, sound that didn't reduce to voice, dysphoria that didn't reduce to body, to say nothing of other things. My rib, my pituitary gland, my ear seemed to differ the same as this overpass, this underpass, this median. Then there was a spill that disclosed the accident of embodiment. Then there was a spill that widened our exposure. Then there was a spill where skin washed away. Then there was a spill that washed you away. I wish I had carried you. I carry you there. I carry you with me. I wanted to nurture a lesion with you because I only understood disintegrated relation. I wanted a blood under the body, in its mouth, in its mouth, in its mouth, through which we couched in endless prepositions our approach to God. Its blood under the body, if we couldn't speak it, if we were left there, if there had been no breath in common, if we counted the forms, if you had been the gift, if you had been innumerable. Injury is done to the body when in the same poem, more time is devoted to the self than to its guts. I'm not sure whether all leaking souls wish to be saved. I'm not sure of the malignancy of gender, much less its remission. No one lays hands with impunity on such fearsome abstractions as the existent and the non-existent. Slowly, upon touching them, the blood congeals. I'm sorry about the mess. I'm sorry about the symptoms of the mess. I'm not sure he loves me like a hormone. Every method opened to us, every spirit appeared to us, every scripture without lungs. Was I sick with him? As a child, I watched my knuckles dry and crack through sermons and smeared them onto envelopes meant for tithes. I hid these envelopes only to return and note their shifts from deep red to brown. Was I sick with him? Once the skin on my rightmost knuckle buckled and split, the meat broke open. The woman to my left covered her eyes. The man to my right spit my blood from his mouth. My knuckle spray reached 10 vertical feet. I twisted my hand. The beam knocked a family from their pew. It was the rhetoric of our gore. We were ideological in our filth. Was I sick with you? When I couldn't find your body, I wrote a book to replace it. I wanted to mourn you while you were living. I shall not eat anything with the blood. I shall not make any cuttings in my flesh for the dead, nor print any marks. My gender was a stomach, which is a mode of self-governance. It was hungry. It consumed all relation. Its digestion was an apology. I puked for days. The carpet was an ocean. I know, never again will objects be solidly determined. My rib, my pituitary gland, my ear. I hold to curled anatomy. Sometimes there is a current of meat. In its mouth, in its mouth, in its mouth. So it will be as if I never loved you? If we couldn't speak it, if it were elastic, if it were incontinent, if it were the glazed belly, if it had no interior, if we had left surface and after surface had we gone, if it were stretched, if it were not a mouth, if it were mouthed. I have you recorded in my phone. I isolate scraps of your voice. I splice them into sentences that might retrieve or invent a memory. You can say anything. There can be your care. There can be your brutality. I can hold the fullness of our intimacy in the sound. But there are too many of you. I didn't expect to be frightened. Where you teach me weak theories of love. Where you teach me transformation without justice. Where you teach me its aftermaths. Where you teach me prayer as a practice of edging. You teach me its mouthing. You teach me the salivary reel. Where you begin to resemble the thin film over my tongue. You thicken, you harden, you embed yourself in my soft palate. I study your presence there. I drool until our boundaries are translucent. Already I'm inducing myself a gender that is hairless and greedy for detachment. This is a gloss on rage, a relentless assertion of my relation to you. It sounds like this. We go and spit, we go beneath your tongue. We go slipping with, so we rage, we muffled with longing. I remember he was wearing a gray hoodie that was like most of his hoodies. I remember keeping very still and very quiet when he stopped moving so I could hear his breath. I remember I could smell his sweat. Despite your best efforts, I'm still slick with you. Then we're bound to make bare nerve endings. We being raped, there is the liquid man, there is the appearance in deleted nudes. There isn't any horizontality, there is the form being found, there is a hole. Let him who speaks be anathema and accursed. Let him who speaks be blessed and collapsed. Where is the interplay of ducts? Where are the secretions? Where are the translations? What is left uninterpreted in the economy of fluids is given over to God. As if I have killed him, we say, even his whole. On the contrary, we say it, we've been a skin on his surface, so we forgive you. You're so hot. You're so reciprocal. You're so holy. You're so mucosal. You're so submissive. You're so nutritious. You're so cruel. You're so immiscible. I will discharge it for you. I will emit it in sap for you. In my final dream, I love him again. We're in the city, but geographical specificity works against me here, so I won't explain further. If we have regrets, we don't speak them. We don't speak at all. Language and location become accessory. For that interval of stain, for that creeping sore of rest, we will have to answer for you. I want to go where the biological and the historical are not consecutive, where they are desire's most extreme collisions. I want to go where a sphincter is not a mouth, where there are no teeth in the brain, no striations in the meat, no folds in the palms. I've looked everywhere. I've consulted with every partition, every rivulet, every deep zipper. They don't know how to rebuild you. They all want a gentler topology. I wanted to tender in you. I wanted to plant churches in you. I wanted to buy you a milkshake like the one I bought you after your first death. You couldn't drink it then. You wore 2 scars. Your neck had been in flour. Behold a rib. Behold an ear. Behold a pituitary gland. Behold a hunger to that gland. I come quickly. I come to the city looking. I found your smallest and fastest intestine. I found your survivorship bias. I found your imprint in my unwashed sheets. I'm sorry if I digested you. I didn't mean to digest you. Away then with all those prophets who say peace, 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 and there is no peace. Blessed be all those prophets who say cross, 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 and there is no cross. In its mouth, in its mouth, in its mouth. I want an unstained liver. I want a damaged finger. I want a loose and dreamy relation with my belly. I want to go where there is weeping for the body, where there is mercy for the body, where there are no names for the body. Thank you so much.